heedless of the Cadillac's wheels skimming the cliff edge, luxuriated in the relief of her 3-day odyssey across Europe finally being over. She'd travelled by herself that year. Her father, Timothy, a naval captain, and off to sea himself for the summer, hadn't been happy about it. He'd wanted her to take her usual chaperone, a retired teacher by the name of Miss Finch. But Miss Finch had, only the week before, broken her leg, playing croquet of all things, leaving Timothy no time to recruit a replacement, and little choice but to give in to Elena's assurances that she could manage the trip alone, which she had, happily. Sorry she'd felt for Miss Finch, and really poor Miss Finch. It had been such a relief, not having to spend endless hours nodding along to her tales of various nieces and nephews, so many pet rabbits, and pure liberation, deciding for herself when to have a drink, or read, or simply stare from the carriage window in silence. And now she was here. Here. She tilted her head, looking down and out at the sea below, a glittering cloth tinged rose by the dusk, sliced in two by the furrows of the ferry that had brought her from Athens. Idly, she watched it steam away to the horizon, wondering who was now on it, what kind of lives they led, and all the while Yorgos talked, his gruff voice raised above the engine, grilling her on her solitary passage through France, Mussolini's Italy, speaking in rapid Greek, no concession to the months that had passed since she'd last used the language. His tolerance for it not being her mother tongue extremely low. "Did the trains run on time?" "They were fine," she said. "All à cala." "Not crowded?" "No." "You had no trouble in Italy? The black shirts?" "I hardly saw any," she said. "Only at the border." Having her documents scrutinised by the abrasive soldiers was never comfortable, but she'd survived the ordeal many times before. The fascists had, after all, been running Italy since she was a child. She'd known to keep her expression blank, as the men had studied her, then her papers, then her again. She distracted herself by looking at the posters on the railway sidings. "Mussolini never gets older in his pictures," she mused. "Apparently, he shaves his head, so no one will guess he's going grey." "I don't want to waste oxygen talking about him," said Yorgos. "You started it." "And now I'm finishing it." He shifted gear. "You had enough to eat?" "Plenty." "Really?" "Yes," she smiled. "Really." He grunted, disbelieving. Still smiling, she didn't attempt to convince him. He'd never be convinced she ate enough anywhere but on Crete. Her diet was an obsession for him. He'd feed her now until September, not happy unless she left having gained at least a stone to see her through the British winter. She'd manage it with remarkable ease, but couldn't be nearly so pleased about it. "Why?" Yorgos would demand. "What? You want to be one of these magazine models?" She wouldn't entirely mind. He'd arm her with fruits and vegetables to return to England with as well, refusing to accept that any food could be got there that wasn't brown. She'd take the heavy box. Even though it was a pain to carry, the fruit would inevitably bruise, and she really didn't need it, because she hated denying him anything. And because she knew how his certainty that the British diet had killed her mother plagued him, as though more tomatoes and olives and spinach could have saved her from the Spanish flu. Perhaps they might have. "Here we are," he said, unnecessarily, rounding the bend Eleni had been waiting for, veering onto the steep track of rocks and wildflowers that led down to the villa. She braced her feet against the motor's floor, stopping herself from lurching forward as they sped on, feeling a wave of joy as the bougainvillea-shrouded house came into view. It hadn't changed. It never changed. She stared, drinking in its perfect sameness. She had no place she'd grown up in back in England. She'd moved with her father countless times around their Portsmouth suburb of Gosport, their naval quarters upgraded with each new promotion he'd secured through the ranks. An indoor latrine, running hot water, that kind of thing. When she turned 11, Timothy had spent long periods in Africa, and boarding school dormitories had joined her rotation of bedrooms. At 15, he'd taken a desk job back in Portsmouth and summoned her home to complete her school certificate there. She'd only just finished. She wasn't sure what should come next, only that her father expected her to be waiting in their newest house, a modern detached with both garden and garage, when he returned from his summer patrol.